Hello!
I'm hiding.
You scared?
Yes.
We watched a scary film.
We saw The Mummy because Robin was coming to see me, and I was like, let's go to the cinema. We can watch Hokum or we can watch The Mummy. And why did you choose The Mummy?
On vibes, because I really like the Brendan Fraser version from 1989.
You assumed it would be exactly the same, naturally.
I thought it was a remake. We're in remake era.
Well, it is sort of, but as in almost every bit of Mummy media made since the 30s is some degree of a remake of the 30s version.
Yeah.
But, the great thing about Mummy movies and Mummy stories is, unless you count the 30s version, there's no archetypal Mummy story. So, as a result, people just tend to graft whatever the fuck they want onto it. Like The Mummy 1999, adventure-y films, Indiana Jones type stuff.
Yeah.
This one, it's an Exorcist movie by way of
Very
Evil
much.
Dead.
Yeah. The Mummy part of it was
Tangential.
flavour.
Like, there's two possibilities. One, he decided to do a Mummy movie and then he made it like that. Or two, he wanted to make an Exorcist movie and then decided to make Mummy stuff just for extra flavor. And I think it was the second one.
Yeah, it kind of felt tacked on
The
to an Exorcist film.
Yeah, I mean, but this makes sense because the original Mummy story, the original living Mummy story, was like an early 1800s science fiction novel, and they used science to bring it back to life, and it didn't kill people; it just wandered around talking philosophy to people. So the fact that no one's ever adapted that to screen with good reason. Because most of it's not about a mummy, it's about relationships and how weird the future is, what with ladies wearing trousers. Because 1800s version of the 22nd century.
Yeah.
I did a short on YouTube about this.
I probably watched it.
But as a result, mummy movies are very elastic in how they do. Vampire movies, 9 times out of 10, it's about a rich, sad white person wandering around in a cape. Whether they're the vampire or the hero, it's going to be someone.
Yeah.
Well, the Mummy movie, a lot more varied. And as a result, you end up with the Evil Dead Exorcist.
Yeah, there was a lot of filmic non sequiturs in this one.
Yeah.
It really could have benefited from another edit.
It really did not need to be over 2 hours long. I rarely say this about a film, like it's an okay film. I rarely say this film should have been shorter, but this film should have been shorter.
Yeah. So, plot-wise, are we doing no spoilers first?
No spoilers to begin with, although we might have just given enough of no spoiler stuff.
So, like, the whitest Hispanic family you've ever met.
Although, amazingly, the mother, not the older mother, the mother, you think,
Yes.
she's actually literally from Spain.
Oh.
So she's an OG Hispanic person in real life.
Yeah.
And the dad's Irish in real life.
Fair enough. But, yeah, the whitest... It always has to be a white dude. Even when they try to make it something else. It's always a white man. But there was, like, a lot of non sequiturs, like, things that just went nowhere, like... Oh, we're driving out of the estate. Oh, look, there's some coyotes and what looks like a wolf with them for some reason, one of them. Oh, we can't get past them to take the children to school. Cutscene. Oh, we're at school.
And there's this is big spoiler, but they end the film, and then they decide that was a sad ending, so they then tack on a new ending, which is much sort of more, deliciously satisfying, which they didn't set up at all, where they revealed that someone who was every indication in the film indicated that they were dead, is actually alive, so that they can get their comeuppance. And it just goes down cul-de-sacs instead of actually doing the plot is a straight line. This goes down cul-de-sacs that go nowhere and goes back into the straight line.
Yeah, like there's one point where the dad... So, the family's daughter gets kidnapped pretty early in the film, and when they're living in Egypt, because he's a reporter and he's working out of Egypt, and blah, blah, blah. Daughter gets kidnapped, and then cut to 8 years later, she's been missing for 8 years, and we found your daughter in a sarcophagus, whatever. But yeah, that's not spoilery. That's the start of the
trailer.
film.
That's in the trailer.
But so at one point, it's like, oh, she's acting really weird. What's going on? Oh, you go and deal with her being weird, a wife of mine. Oh, I've noticed that there seems to be pustules and blood growing out of the floor under this rug. Poke, poke, poke. Oh, well, I guess that's okay. Walks away and leaves it until it rots through the floorboards like a week later.
That makes me think that there's probably a much longer cut of this where they actually dealt with that sort of stuff. Because Lee Cronin, I don't know why they decided to call it Lee Cronin's The Mummy. He's not a famous director. Like, the biggest thing he's done before this was Evil Dead 5.
Yeah.
And you can really see the Evil Dead influences. And it was good. Evil Dead Rise, it was good. It was the one. It was the second one without Ash. And it was set in an apartment building where the Deadites causing nonsense, and it was fun. But he's competent. So I really think they sort of cut the wrong stuff and left in too much stuff, or there was a much longer cut, and they're like, we can cut it down to this much, and they didn't keep cutting, so they left parts of these cul-de-sacs still there.
There's either a much better 3-hour film in there, or there's like quite an okay tight 90-minute film in there.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of
some really weird logic. Like they tracked down who put the girl in the sarcophagus. They had the name Layla, who had been friends with the girl and giving her like treats for some reason.
And he goes and finds. I think there's several scenes in this film where the dad like finds another room in this giant weird house where he has stashed away stuff in another dramatic custom-made wooden box.
Yeah, who keeps all their mail in a giant chest?
Who keeps their daughter's scouting equipment from the day she went missing in another different giant chest?
But so you find out that there's a girl called Layla was one who was friends with her and giving her sweets and stuff, and then they used that to track down where she was. But Layla lives in like an oasis miles and miles and miles from Cairo. So this family from Cairo who were doing all this mummy shit decided to target her and become friends with her, even though she lived hours away, and she was an American tourist, American sort of immigrant, person there who was more likely to be missed. And in order to do this is there's a deranged lack of logic here. Their target really should have been a local girl who no one's going to miss.
And if it's been going on in the family for, I think they say at one point 3,000 years before Christ, so that's 5,000 years that's going on. But it's also the 81st sacrifice.
Yeah, it's only been 81 of them.
And also at the start of the film, like her brother dies to the mummy, so like, or no, her husband. Sorry. Not her brother. Her brother's died in a plane crash. But like, why do they need another sacrifice so soon?
Well, the one that obviously the thing didn't work at the start because it was dying because it was loose or something. I don't know. Then they needed. Although to be fair, yeah, the kids were much younger. That doesn't. I don't know if that happened around the same time as the before 8 years. It's a little bit confused. Sometimes you have characters introduced and they're very similar looking and you don't really have context. Like for ages, I was wondering if Layla was their cleaner or if Layla was someone else. And it's only later on you find out she's, the girl's friend. You never found out how old Layla was meant to be at the time.
And we never actually see. They set this whole thing up about this girl Layla has been like meeting her at the bottom of the garden where she plays tea party with her dollies and giving her sweeties and grooming her. And then the first we hear of this is when Layla doesn't show up and her mum does instead and does the kidnapping. It's like, if you're going to have so many cul-de-sacs, surely you could have had a little scene in there showing this actually happening with Layla instead of just telling us.
There probably was at some point. It's. I got the feeling that the full plot to this is labyrinthine. It was probably. Cronin probably intended it to like 2 films or something. There was so much stuff there, and they cut out so much stuff. They could have kept cutting, and it would have probably worked better.
Yeah. So a lot of the scenes to me, and this is probably because I'm got out of the way of watching gory shit, but a lot of this stuff just felt like, aha, so we've set up this really gory scene that the director really wanted to film. What can we do to justify having this in the film?
That's the Evil Dead thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. All the Evil Deads except for Army of Darkness were full of that. So yeah, I noticed that as well, but I wasn't complaining.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. It just kind of felt odd. Like the whole thing with the scorpion clawing out the police chick's throat It's like, okay, but
And then it injects her, and she doesn't die, even though she got a scorpion sting to her throat. She's fine.
And she just comes back later with like a big scar here, and it's like, yeah, it didn't really do much except make me talk like this.
Well, I have to say, it was nice to see a police procedural in Cairo. You don't usually in Western media get that sort of look at, regular everyday stuff in Cairo.
Yeah, there was a lot.
That was fun.
Yeah, a lot of good fun stuff there. And it was also really nice that we got an establishing shot of Cairo that didn't just include the Giza Peninsula. Or not peninsula.
Pyramids?
Yeah.
Although, having a film called The Mummy that doesn't include the pyramids does seem to be a little bit of a misstep. And slightly.
The actual pyramid they were in as well, I noticed quite a lot of the stuff in it, while not accurate to how actual pyramids are laid out, seemed to be actually heavily influenced on real stuff on like a lot of...
Like the black sort of thing, like the black car casket.
Sarcophagus.
Yeah, that seemed to be based on the black sarcophagus that was actually found in Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
It was filled with wastewater and stuff, and I think they just extrapolated that thing, and a pyramid made it in the same way.
And like the gated door that you had to crawl through to get in, that's pretty standard pyramid architecture and all the rest of it. So there's a mummy demon kind of before humans even had writing or language to understand. What was it called? The
Nazmaranian.
Nazmaranian. The Nazmaranian was an evil demon that made people do psychopathic evil things, and it went from person to person like a disease, and they managed to trap it in the body and put it in a sarcophagus and build a pyramid around it, and this one family in this valley has been looking after it for 5,000 years, sacrificing people to contain the curse.
You'd think the family would just insist on having a lot of children and then using one of their own kids.
Or kidnapping a local. Why go all the way to Cairo to kidnap the one girl that's...
To kidnap an immigrant from a white family, who are more likely to have, shit kicked up about them because they're fucking Americans.
Yeah,
But, logically, these people live isolated lives in their own little farm in the middle of an oasis. Just use one of your own family. You can use any kid. They say the kids are best because, reasons.
But the whole plot of the film, had this not happened, it would have just been, oh no, the girl went missing, and then, whatever, 100 years later, they needed to do another sacrifice, fine. But they put the sarcophagus, they took it out of the protective pyramid, put it in a plane.
Yeah, how did they have a plane?
Probably for like crop spraying or
use
something.
A van or something.
They put it in the back of a pickup truck. They had a pickup truck.
I mean, okay, two suggestions to smooth this out a bit. A, at the opening credits bit, kill the kids. Indicate that the family typically use one of their children for this purpose, and the kids are all dead, so they can't, and so they're forced to use an outsider.
What killed the bird?
Being a bird.
So, they know that it's time to redo the sacrifice because,
it's a canary.
They come home. Yeah, it's obviously being used for that. But they come home and, their pet. I think it was a budgerigar, but it wasn't a canary. But they're using it as a canary, and it's just lying in a pool of its own blood, going.
And the other way to deal with another thing to smooth this out. Have it that some assholes come to the oasis and they steal it. They kill some other people. They steal the fucking tomb, the sarcophagus, because they're assholes out to get antiquities, and that's why. And the plane crashed because of the curse or whatever.
Yeah, but
it's much smoother.
Our valley is going to flood for the first time in 5,000 years, and we're worried that this means the Nazmaranian's going to get out. So let's put it in our plane and fly it over the forest.
If someone steals it and kills the magician who did that, which means that they're like, oh no, we have to deal with this ourselves because she's dead and stuff, and she got her just comeuppance by being killed. It would have been so much smoother.
Also, one thing that really took me out of the whole film, and that's a very cliche thing to say, but the plane crash, how the hell did that guy end 38 feet up a tree with a branch coming through his head in this direction by falling out of the sky?
Yeah, he was launched backwards somehow into a tree at this angle.
Yeah, with
I did wonder about that at the time.
I was like, huh?
It's the curse of the mummy.
Yeah. And of course, the only way to contain it is by this ancient form of writing, because, modern witches aren't as good as 5,000-year-old witches.
I imagine it might work with modern writing as well. And, it's just the words. It's just that's the version that they had.
Yeah.
So they, out of practice, just keep reusing the same one.
But it's also like it breaks its own lore because the Nackmarinian is supposed to pass from person to person, causing them to do things like kill their family. But at one point in the film, the Nackmarinian was inhabiting the main daughter who got kidnapped, the second daughter that was born just as she was kidnapped, the middle child's son, and their dead grandmother's corpse. It's like,
I think the logic was it takes over someone and then it can influence everyone else in the family, for discord reasons.
eh,
It wasn't very well explained.
no, but it was definitely an Exorcist film more than anything else.
Very much. Like, it wasn't a bad Exorcist film. It's just overlong, doesn't make a lot of sense. Which, compared to other Exorcist movies, like, Exorcist 2 or The Beginning, which is massively improved.
Like, right down to a lot of the body configuration work that was done by the main actress, the inhabitant. What was her name? Kitty? Yes,
Yeah.
Kitty. Like, all of her, like, contortions and stuff. I was like, yeah, this has been done in The Exorcist.
I wonder how much mummy stuff Mike Flanagan's going to add to his Exorcist movie.
Ah.
Probably none.
Not none. Then it'll be The Conjuring.
Oh no, it's even worse. Fucking Conjuring. I'm actually going to be in a podcast about skepticism and paranormal stuff next month.
Mm.
And the reason I got in this is because they were asking, we need guest stars. Listen, you have suggestions. And Creature said, you should ask Diamanda Hagan. She saw a ghost once and doesn't believe in them. Which is a story I told in either The Conjuring or Conjuring 2 Backseat Critique.
I used that story as an example. I work with somebody who's in a similar vein, incredibly skeptical and has seen ghosts several times, but has frequent work arguments about how they don't exist and stuff. Yeah, it reminded me of you.
It's very it's an odd sort of thing, if you mention, I've seen a ghost, I don't believe in them. Those two things shouldn't go together. But when you explain it, it makes a lot of sense. You are putting your own perception behind a reality as understood by science, because putting your own perception first, that's kind of arrogant.
Yeah, I like to think I'm very rational, but I've got into a few situations that have destroyed that at the time of the years.
You rational? Oh, no.
I said irrational.
Oh.
No, I didn't. Rewind the tape.
No tape here.
I like that it was a Betamax. Like, who records themselves sacrificing a child
What are the house
on a Betamax?
Why do they have a Betamax in the house in Albuquerque?
Because it's the granny's house, obviously. Just because your granny lived there, you must have a spare Betamax. Why did the house have tunnels?
Why did the cop call once, not get an answer, and then
fly to America?
Fly to Albuquerque. If this happened in real life, she'd be been grabbed by ICE and thrown out of the country.
How did they receive that letter that was just addressed to family name Albuquerque, the United States? I think that was a weird way to address a letter.
You could tell the director is not American, getting their American, address like that. I believe Lee Cronin's Irish.
Oh, but I think that's another the tunnel thing. So I get it. American houses are built weird. They're all wooden and they have crawl spaces between the walls and stuff, and especially in the older designs. But I tracked them running around this room. And for that to actually exist,
I gave up on that.
They went round 5 corners in the walls of this one 4-walled room. So, and also the crawl space was 3 feet wide and tall enough to stand in. Why not just make the room bigger? But, where's the door? How does the door into the hall or the window out into the outside work if you can go the whole way around the room?
See, if you're doing a thing about a haunted house, or even, say, something weird in Star Trek, like with a Borg cube being all hyperdimensional,
yeah,
do something subtle, like having them, go around it and having 5 instead of 4 edges, but don't draw attention to it. That might work, but in this, it's meant to be a normal house. American houses aren't quite tesseracts yet.
No, 5-dimensional space and all that, but yeah. Also, Big Brother, do you want to come undress me? Yeah. Weirdest line in the whole fucking thing.
I did notice some of the people watching it, gave some laughs that sounded like they weren't sure if they were meant to laugh or not. They weren't sure if this was deliberate or not. And I was like, it's deliberate. This dude worked on an Evil Dead movie. Come on.
It's dark comedy, but it was very tonally shifting. It
was.
I can understand why they didn't really get if it was deliberate or not, because a lot of the film was very, very serious. Took itself very seriously indeed.
I seem to recall Cronin's Evil Dead Rise was very similar. It was a really, really unhappy drama about a family, but also ridiculous, over the top Evil Dead gore action. So yeah, that seems to be his forte.
Yeah, I don't like teeth. Oh, I do not like teeth. There's a lot of teeth stuff in this film.
How did she grow her teeth back?
She didn't. She stole the grandma's. Oh, at the end, yeah.
Yeah, she had her teeth again.
That's where. So, the youngest child, during grandma's funeral, rips out all of her own teeth.
Because she's possessed too.
Yeah, she had a loose, wobbly baby tooth, and she's like, "This is my last baby tooth, yay!" Rips it out, rips the rest of her teeth out, goes to grandma's corpse, unwires the jaw, steals the dentures, and puts them in. It's like, which, great scene. That's well done. That was very eerie and gross and exactly what the director was aiming for.
She spat blood all over the deviled eggs.
And then they ate the deviled eggs unknowingly. But like,
I assume this is hot sauce.
At the end, they had all their teeth back.
Yeah.
Weird.
Maybe those are dentures too, but
Also, the detective is a fucking moron the entire film. Like, they made this whole big deal about, if you're moving to missing persons, I've found 195 people in 27 years. 190 of them were dead. Dun, dun, dun. Which, of course, like, the dad knows to ask her about later. Like, oh, how many of the people you found were alive?
Not enough.
But, like, we found a name here, and it looks... I think they tracked it from the postage thingy. So they managed to track where the letter had been sent by saying it was a post office out in the middle of nowhere, hundreds of miles from Cairo.
Near the oasis. And
so it starts looking at it on Google Earth.
And they're like, the only Layla Khalid's in this area, live on this farm, and that's how they get tracked on the farm. So it's like, just demonstrating how fucking far these guys were from Cairo when they would go there regularly just to apparently get the attention of the small girl. Why didn't you kidnap someone closer?
So the detective girl, did we ever get her name in the film?
Yes, but I forget.
I forget it too. Very well played, fabulous actress. But she says, I'm going to drop my lunch, get in my car, drive immediately to this oasis farm in the desert by myself, pull out my gun, walk on in, have a nosy round the place, and then the farm owner, the evil woman, comes home and starts like chopping up vegetables or something. I don't know.
Shoot the villain lady.
Shoot her in the heart. Imply that she's dead. Like, what did you do to Kitty? What did you do?
Then chase their daughter, who runs off to the far side of the farm to dig up a box where the VHS is. The VHS, which has all of the...
It was Betamax!
Which has the all the information. It has a video of her doing the ritual, but it's written in English, Katie, when none of them speak fucking English.
And then the daughter, she obviously took her back. How did they get medical help to the mum? Like, they just left.
Why did she go to the box? There was she was worried about it being caught. They weren't going to search there. That was like miles from the farm.
I think the daughter was trying to like turn her in.
Why didn't the daughter just be like, follow me, I will take a place. I'm glad you shot my evil mother. Oh.
Because her tongue was cut out.
But then she could speak.
She could speak immediately after, be like, speak! What did they do for the 500-mile drive home? Just have her sit in the front seat like...
I can totally not speak until it's necessary about the blood. I really think...
I suddenly can't speak again. Give me a pen.
I really think there's a longer cut of this that explains more stuff, but it might be better just to have a shorter cut that cuts out the questions.
Yeah, this was quite a silly film.
I look forward to seeing a fan edit to this that quite aggressively changes stuff.
But I mean, like, the production itself, most of the issues with the writing, the effects looked good. The acting wasn't terrible. There was a few dodgy spots, but it was okay overall. Just, the film looks fantastic. Like, a lot of the shots are very well done, in my opinion. It's a technically very well made film that needed a lot more editing or a different writer.
And you got the weird thing, the start, the dad's offered this really prestigious job in New York, and then his daughter gets, kidnapped, and then cuts to 8 years later, and he's got a crappy job in Albuquerque, which is what he didn't want to do. So the impression that you get is that New York will fire you for having your daughter kidnapped. Which, it's not what they're going for, but it seems kind of right for some American media.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
I didn't even have a first thought.
Wow. No thoughts, head empty. Go watch it if you want. It's a gore fest. It's neither an Exorcist nor an Evil Dead nor a Mummy film, but it's
all of the above.
It's all of these.
The Evil Exorcist. Mummy, can we watch the Evil Exorcist?
My evil ex-mummy.
Bye.